I have spent the last 2 videos on my channel covering developments in Red Ball speedrunning that have taken place after I released my Red Ball World Record Progression documentary in November of 2020. And this video marks the third and final installment in this trilogy of sorts. In how the flawless Red Ball speedrun record got destroyed, we took a look at the evolution of the legendary sub-20 train strategy and how it became implemented in full-game Red Ball speedruns, unlocking the potential for the sub-3-minute barrier being broken in the game. The video left off with Jonas Gaming's insane accomplishment of beating Red Ball in 3 minutes and 1 second flat, placing him tantalizingly close to the elusive barrier. In my previous video, Red Ball's biggest mystery was finally solved after 12 years. We explored the development of the Death Warp strategy present across multiple games in the Red Ball series, diving into a technical explanation of the technique and the lore behind it. The Death Warp allowed level 4 to be completed 2 seconds faster than normal, making the race to beat the game in under 3 minutes much more attainable for everyone involved. Since the release of the first video in this trilogy, the players in the race to sub 3, Carmel, RareEG, Jonas Gaming, and XDXbox, have all proven their capability in achieving the milestone, with many sub 3 paces having been lost to the train between them. On top of this, another player made their way into the competition, increasing the number of players attempting to beat the game in under 3 minutes to 5. If you read the title of this video, then you know what is coming. One of these 5 players did the unthinkable and shattered this elusive final minute barrier, becoming the uncontested champion of Red Ball speedrunning. If you haven't caught yourself up to speed in this story, I highly recommend checking out Red Ball World Record Progression and the 2 other videos in this current trilogy to catch yourself completely up to speed. Also, if you have been enjoying the Flash speedrunning content, do make sure to subscribe, because there are still so many more stories to tell, and I am not going anywhere anytime soon. So, if you are ready, let's take a look at the events that have transpired since Jonas's 30112 levels world record, and how Red Ball's legendary speedrun barrier was finally shattered. To begin, let us take a look at many people's favorite to become the first to break the sub 3 barrier, Carmel. In late April, Carmel's PB in Red Ball still stood as an unrecorded 303.57 set on the 14th of that month. This run marked the first time that Carmel had ever pulled off sub 20 train first try in a personal best, which, if you aren't aware yet, is an extremely difficult and inconsistent strategy that has the potential to save around 8 seconds by collecting this flag before it enters a large underground section. However, it fittingly has a success rate amongst the game's very best runners of around 1 in 20. This unrecorded run could have easily been the first sub 3, but the 6 seconds that he lost in level 10 prevented it from being so. After this run, Carmel went full steam ahead with attempting sub 20 train whenever possible, even on runs that were already far beyond saving. On the 25th of April, he entered level 10 3 seconds behind, but managed to exit 3 seconds ahead by not committing any mistakes, now having a best possible time of 2:58. His sub 3 paces counter read 7, all of which were runs that could have been the very first sub 3 had he nailed sub 20 train. This pace would mark number 8, and once again, he lined up for the strategy. He got the first necessary jump on the large spikes that are supposed to kill Red Ball on contact, but he would unfortunately die on the second jump. Later that same day, he would get onto sub 3 pace number 9, 5.5 seconds ahead of his PB this time. Once again, he nailed the first hop, but wasn't so lucky on the second one. On the 30th of April, he got on a run that was even farther ahead out of level 10, being 5.69 seconds ahead of his PB, and he would successfully perform both hops, but he unfortunately did not garner enough speed to land on the first black platform, landing into the open cart below. He lost 7 seconds in level 11, having to wait for the flag, but he still finished the run with a low 3:04, giving him a new best recorded time. This run still marks the fastest time verified on the leaderboard without the use of sub 20 train, even faster than the first world record that utilized the strategy, RareEG's 3:04. However, EG's 304 did take place before the advent of Death Warp in level 4, which, as mentioned before, is a strategy that saves around 2 seconds. In case you aren't yet aware, Red Ball is able to activate the flag at the end of the level by contacting this axe, because his position in the entire level gets set to his position in the camera of the game upon death. Though, make sure to watch the full-length video on the subject for a more in-depth explanation. While Carmel's failed sub 20 counter on sub 3 pace began to rack up, the world record holder at the time, Jonas Gaming, was doing just the same. Jonas, having a time just a second off the legendary 3-minute barrier, was also the favorite of many to attain the milestone first. In late April, he and Carmel were by far the most active participants in the race to sub 3, as Jonas poured in thousands of attempts after attaining his 301. On the 27th of April alone, he lost 3 separate sub 3 paces to sub 20 train, with every attempt failing on the first large spikes jump. On the 1st of May, he was on pace again, but he unfortunately didn't even get to attempt the strategy since he accidentally died on the ceiling spikes placed in the first section of the level. Also on May 1st, the clear underdog in the quest for sub 3 would pull off something important that would make his presence more known. At the end of April, Xbox's PB was still a 313.750, far away from the sub 3 barrier and even his other competitors that were going for the milestone. However, what Xbox lacked in his personal best time, he made up for in his sheer consistency and mastery with sub 15 train, a variant of sub 20 train that could save an additional 2 to 3 seconds by collecting the flag before it went under this ground triangle. Xbox had poured around 50 hours into individual level attempts of the strategy to try to push it to near perfection. And in the process, he became more consistent at the sub 15 train strategy than top runners were with even the normal sub 20 strategy. This variant involved a very difficult first jump to land on a further ridge in the train than normal sub 20 used, and a back corner boost off of the second black platform in order to garner the speed necessary to collect the flag as soon as possible. Thus, the best possible time when Xbox entered level 11 in his 313 was under 3 minutes, but he opted not to go for sub 15 to hopefully secure a time in the 30x range. However, a death in 12 unfortunately prevented him from achieving this. On the 1st of May, Xbox entered level 11 a second ahead of his 313, making his best possible time a comfortable sub 3. However, Xbox again opted not to go for sub 15, and this time he did actually secure his first 30x with a 309.767. If Xbox had gone for sub 15 in this run and gotten it, it could have been a sub 3, since sub 15 train saves around 11 seconds over the traditional train strategy, proving that, with the right amount of luck, Xbox could suddenly obtain the milestone at any moment. However, Xbox would instead opt to take a hiatus on playing Red Ball after achieving this personal best, effectively dropping him out of the race, dropping the number of participants down to 3. Thankfully, in his absence, others would continue to pour attempts into the game. Jonas and Carmel were getting so tantalizingly close to sub 3. On the 5th of May, Jonas exited the large spikes with what looked like enough speed, but he barely clipped the front of the first black platform, losing all of his momentum, something which is almost impossible to recover from. And on the 7th of May, Carmel nailed almost all of sub 20 train on a run that could have barely gotten sub 3, but he unfortunately died while trying to jump on the very last saw blade. Something that generally isn't an issue. The very next day, Carmel would hit sub 20, but it would only garner him a PB of 301.933 due to him losing significant chunks of time in the car in level 8 and in level 10. At this point, the participants in the race to sub 3 were starting to feel extremely defeated, with motivation dying down and Rare EG seemingly only grinding for the milestone in just one stream of his attempts on the 4th of May. Things would quiet down somewhat, and just as the quest for sub 3 seemed to be forgotten, another runner would suddenly join in the hunt. Going into May, Speedrunner Sword had a PB of 308.890. Which had been set all the way back on the 1st of April. Sword decided to take a stab at getting a run with sub 20 train in it, having become much better at the strategy since his 308. And around 3,000 attempts after his previous PB, Sword would end up doing this.
Fuck, bro. No fucking way.
After being a second behind his PB going into level 11, Sword was now 7.2 seconds ahead thanks to sub 20 train. With a perfect level 12, Sword had the ability to just barely clutch out the first sub 3. Unfortunately, he clipped this corner after the spike pit. He missed the stair corner jump before the ending ramp, and he missed the backup jump to get back on top of it, ending with a 303.550. This near sub 3 put the other participants back onto high alert, but Sword would not ease up on the pressure. Just 2 days later, on the 15th of May, Sword entered level 11 over a second ahead, easily putting him on sub 3 pace with sub 20 train. This is what transpired next. Mere pixels away from the flag's hitbox, Sword got pushed out of the cart. By possibly being just a frame too slow, Sword failed sub 20 train and another chance at attaining the first sub 3. After jumping off of the second saw blade, Sword landed squarely in the gap between two carts and lost most of his speed after jumping. This extremely unfortunate situation is what left him just barely too slow to collect the flag. Now, three runners had felt the distinct pain of losing a sub 3 pace beyond the large spikes in level 11. Jonas by barely clipping the first black platform, Carmel by dying on the third saw blade, and Sword first by making mistakes in level 12 and later by squarely landing in the ridge between two carts after jumping off of the third saw blade in level 11. So close, yet still so far away. But hold on a minute. We really haven't talked much about Rare EG, the person who achieved the first 3.0x with his legendary 307 and the first world record utilizing sub 20 train with his 304. He was still the favorite of many to achieve the first sub 3, even though he had only publicly done attempts a single time after Jonas's 301. Was he up to anything? As it turns out, he was. On the 13th of May, Rare EG had gotten onto a run that was 6.9 seconds ahead of a high 304 out of level 9, easily on pace for the sub 3. Unfortunately, he missed the frame-perfect super bounce strategy in level 10 on his first attempt. After resetting, he did nail it on his second try, but he lost over 3 seconds because of the mistake. In level 11, EG nailed sub 20 train and entered level 12 3.7 seconds ahead, yielding him a best possible time of just around 3:00.5, which was on pace for a new world record. From this, it would appear that sub 3 was impossible, but this was actually not the case. Over on the individual levels side of Red Ball speedrunning, there is an extremely difficult strategy in level 12 that involves getting a large corner jump off of the bottom stair here, a much faster way of reaching the top of the ending ramp, saving up to half a second. With this new strategy, it was possible for him to squeak out a sub 3 by a matter of frames, and he was planning on going for it. However, the game wouldn't even give him a chance, as when he tried to jump into the beginning spike pit for the second time, Red Ball exploded into 8 pieces. The next day, on the 14th of May, EG had a chance to redeem himself, being 5.6 seconds ahead into level 11, but he unfortunately jumped just a bit too late while attempting sub 20 and died. Looking at all of this, you may be wondering why EG was effectively playing the game in secret and why nobody is hearing about these paces until the release of this very video. Let's just say that EG's speedrunning mindset operates in a vastly different fashion than most other people, including myself. All the way back in 2018, when EG and I were competing to become the first to complete Red Ball in under 3 minutes and 30 seconds, EG was also extremely secretive about when he was doing attempts, what paces he was getting, and how close he actually was to the milestone. I may have won that battle, but EG later managed to push the game to much greater heights, essentially all on his own. For EG, speedrunning is a battle for personal improvement first, with the community-driven part coming in a distant second. And there's absolutely nothing wrong with having this kind of mindset. After nearly obtaining a sub 3, EG would be the last person to send a message in Discord about it, and that is just how he operates. EG had very special plans of what to do if he did become the first to obtain sub 3, but time would only tell if he would be able to execute them. After so many fails and so many close calls from 4 separate runners, sub 3 was bound to happen soon. Thankfully, on the 17th of May, somebody would finally pull it off. So, let's go through a very familiar song one more time in order to properly illustrate what is by far the greatest Red Ball speedrun ever performed. (257.8) On, fittingly, his 20th sub-3 pace into train, he finally nailed sub-20 train and closed out the run he had dreamed of. He had nailed sub-20 train first try on 11 other occasions, but none of those runs were fast enough out of the train to become the first sub-3. Well, until now. He had yielded some minor mistakes throughout the run, but things like his outstanding ramp double jump in 6, his amazing hood launch in level 8, destined through the video URL of the sub-3 run itself, and his blisteringly fast sub-20 train certainly made up for it. Like how EG did with his 307, Carmel went far beyond the sub-3 barrier with his 257.8, making one fact very clear. He did not need the Death Warp in level 4 in order to complete Red Ball in under 3 minutes. Adding back the 2 seconds that it saved, he would have finished with a 259.8, still under the milestone. Regardless, Carmel had become the first to attain a sub-3, and this is what he had to say about it. I have been waiting for so long. The day after EG beat my record, I started practicing sub-20 train. I slowly became more and more consistent with this incredibly difficult strategy. On the 19th of March, I got a 305, which did utilize sub-20 train, but had some more mistakes in the earlier levels. 4 days later, I choked a 302 pace into 12. I stopped playing for a while and came back when Death Warp was discovered. I was slowly improving my personal best, practicing constantly and getting more consistent at levels such as 6, 8, and 9. I managed to get over 50% consistency on all of them. It was all a matter of hitting the 10 super bounce and a fast sub-20 train. After 8,222 attempts, over 250 hours of playtime, 20 sub-3 paces, and 50 world record chokes, it has finally become a reality. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the first time Red Ball 1 has been completed in under 3 minutes. As for the run, it is unoptimized to say the least. Levels 2, 4, 9, 10, and 12. But hey, the barrier which was long awaited to be broken has just been broken. Together, we move the limits. Peace. Marcin the Carmel. Now that this milestone has been broken, the only question left is, where do we go from here? Near the end of the first video in this post-307 trilogy, I made the claim that a time under 2 minutes and 50 seconds is something that will almost certainly not happen. However, it seems like from the comments that a lot of people don't really know what almost certainly means. And I honestly could have done a much better job dictating what I meant. So, let's set the record straight here. Sub 250 is absolutely a possible time. The segmented run that has been created with the best individual level times produced by hundreds upon hundreds of hours of gameplay by various members in the community stands at a 238, and the current TAS of the game stands at a 229. If Carmel had not lost a second in level 2, gotten a clean stair jump in level 4, nailed the extremely inconsistent back corner boost also in level 4, gotten a better plunger in level 9, gotten a one jump ball in level 10, and not clipped this corner in level 12, all while doing everything else that he managed to accomplish, that would have barely made his time a 252. Adding on sub 15 train and maybe something else like task 3 for good measure, a time under 2 minutes and 50 seconds certainly becomes feasible. However, the main problem with this is that there are serious doubts that a runner will ever be dedicated enough to pour in the tens of thousands of attempts and likely thousands of hours of playtime necessary in order to pull this off. Red Ball is a physics sandbox, where strategies like full 6-ramp double jump and sub-20 train will almost certainly remain extremely inconsistent for the rest of time. There is usually no way to memorize a string of inputs and execute them to perform a desired outcome. And it is almost never possible to line yourself up on an object in order to have a better chance at executing a strategy. I have seen how immensely draining this game was for the runners attempting to achieve the first sub-3, so I can't even wrap my head around how one would feel attempting to achieve a sub-250. But, as we all know, you can't predict the future. Though Red Ball seems pretty much solved at this point as a result of hundreds of hours of glitch hunting, IL grinding, and tassing, there is absolutely no way to be certain of that. We may find brand new strategies, and we may figure out how to bring some TAS-only strategies to real-time attempts. Or we may indeed find setups for performing things like sub-15 train more consistently. Regardless, one thing will always remain true. Red Ball is an extremely unpredictable, unusual game, one that is only here today because of a miracle. Indeed, this whole community that we have built only exists because in 2008, a concrete mixer salesman from Russia was sent a link to a blog that would inspire him to create the game series that we all know and love. We must continue to strive for the seemingly impossible and always expect the unexpected. Thank you for watching the world record progression of Red Ball. Hey everyone, I hope you all enjoyed watching the video. While the progression graph is playing and the credits are rolling, there are some things that I would like to mention here at the end, including an announcement of a $200 raffle, so make sure to keep watching. Firstly, on the 9th of June, Jonas Gaming got trolled by the game again by getting a 300.1, putting him just 4 frames off of the sub-3 milestone. Jonas has put an immense amount of effort into trying to obtain a sub-3, and I am certain that he will achieve it at some point in the near future. Also, during the making of this video, a massive development was found in level 3 of the game that has enormous implications for future runners attempting a sub-3 and for the feasibility of attaining a sub-250 in the future. By executing a single frame-perfect jump at the start of the level and continuing to hold down the jump and right keys, you get placed in the perfect position to get a recoil jump off of the front of this elevator. By then jumping off the back edge of the platform, you can reach the flag around 2 seconds faster than normal Fast 3. The fact that this works is nothing short of a miracle, and the importance of this new strategy, coined Bird 3, cannot be understated. With it, XDXbox Jaja managed to achieve a 304.5 on the 13th of June without utilizing either sub-15 or sub-20 train. With just a slightly cleaner 12 and sub-15 train, which Xbox is the master of, this run had the potential to be a 252. Bird 3 nearly saves as much time as TAS 3, which involves an extremely inconsistent corner boost on the elevator, has a success rate of around 1 in 20, and would essentially be required, along with sub-15 train, for someone to realistically attain a 249. Now, that 2-second time save in 3 is orders of magnitude more consistent and is completely skill-based. 249 may still be a distant pipe dream, but with Bird 3, we at least have a glimmer of hope of it actually being obtained one day. And yes, this strategy is a reminder that, despite what we might think, we can never be certain that Red Ball is a game that is 100% solved. Now, with that out of the way, there are a lot of people that I would like to thank that helped out with the making of this video. Thanks to all of the Sub-3 crew, Carmel, Jonas, Sword, EG, and Xbox for their continued help while making these videos, and their continued dedication to speedrunning Red Ball. Along with them, Thog N, Yak Attack, BNMC, Motorjam, Norksor, and Skarmory also helped out with editing the script, so a huge thanks goes out to them as well. The cubing and Tetris legend himself, Radical Macaroni, helped me with some microphone and audio stuff, so a big thanks to him for that. And, of course, an enormous thank you goes out to the entire Red Ball community for supporting other runners, for continuing to push the games in the Red Ball series to their absolute limits, and for showing Carmel's Sub-3 video a massive amount of love, with it already sitting at 12,000 views less than a month after its release. I highly recommend watching the entire video to get a full grip of his monumental achievement. And finally, it is time to announce the $200 raffle that I mentioned earlier. Thanks to a very generous donation that I received out of the blue from the creator of Red Ball, Eugene Fedosiv, I would like to hold a raffle where entry is gained by achieving a certain time on the Red Ball 1 leaderboard. If you are new to the game or have a time of 3 minutes 40 seconds or above, you can enter this raffle by achieving a time of 3 minutes 39 seconds or below. If you currently have a time between 3 minutes and 30 seconds and 3 minutes and 39 seconds, you can enter this raffle by achieving a time of 3 minutes 29 seconds or below, and so on. With this system, effectively everybody has a chance to enter. Well, except for Carmel, I guess. Two $100 winners will be drawn on July 16th, 2021, which should be exactly a month after this video releases. If you are watching this video after the conclusion of this raffle, I still highly recommend learning how to speedrun the game, and I'm sure you'll have a good time doing it. To enter, you must submit your run with recorded video evidence to the speedrun.com leaderboard following all rules and guidelines, and have it be verified. To learn the game, I highly recommend checking out the Red Ball beginner tutorial on my second channel, which I will link in the description, in the pinned comment, and on the end screen. Also, make sure to join the Red Ball speedrunning Discord if you have any questions or would like help learning the game. Best of luck goes out to all of the runners. That wraps up everything, so thank you all once again for watching, and I will see you all in the next video.